And then at the end of the month, hopefully I will be left with 0. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Camilla. I'm a trainee solicitor at a law firm in London, and on this channel I make videos about law careers and personal development. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I budget my paycheck every month. Now, I never used to be the type of person that budgets their paycheck or has any type of budget at all. I've always been more of an intuitive spender and saver. I would just try and limit what I'm spending and try and increase what I'm saving. You know, it wasn't a complete train wreck, but I do think after becoming slightly more educated on personal finance that it's so important to have a personal budget so that you can reach your financial goals. I just want to start off by saying that I know that money can be an emotional topic for a lot of people, and it kind of was for me for a long time as well. I used to just stick my head in the sand and hope for the best when it came to managing my money. The thought of budgeting made me feel really anxious. I don't know why. I just was really against it for a very long time. I didn't know the total of my bills. I didn't know what money I had coming in. I didn't know really what money I had going out. So I don't really know how I've made it to this age without having a budget. I think I was quite good at spending intuitively and saving intuitively. I managed to do okay. You know, I explained in one of my previous videos, which I'll link in the description, I managed to save £60,000 without having a real budget. So I'm not saying that you need a budget in order to reach your financial goals, but I do think that it's very important for you to know what's coming in, what's going out. And I've come to realize that now. I think that's just the fundamentals of managing your money so that you don't overspend, and also so that you can reach your financial goals, whether that is in relation to saving money for a specific purpose or investing money or anything that you want to do. I think it's really important to have a clear plan, and the best way to do that is by having a budget. Yeah, I used to hate budgeting, but now that I've started educating myself on the importance of money management, I actually find it quite fun. So the first thing that I'm going to do is talk you through my payday routine. We all have skincare routines and morning routines, but I think having a payday routine is really, really important. The first step in my payday routine is checking my payslip to make sure that all of the deductions look the same as usual. So make sure that your tax, national insurance, and any other deductions look about the same as usual, and then nothing looks out of place. I then check my bank account to make sure that the correct amount has been deposited, because, you know, mistakes can happen. I don't think it's ever happened to me, but I have heard of people, you know, where they just don't get paid the right amount. So I think it's always important just to make sure that you are getting paid what you should be getting paid every month. And the first outgoing that I make before I even get my money deposited into my bank account is my pension contributions. Workplace pensions are a really good way of investing for your future. So for example, I contribute 5% of my salary and my company contributes 3% of my salary. So that means I actually end up getting free money, which is great. I mean, who doesn't like free money? If you're like me and like free money, then I would definitely explore your options in relation to workplace pensions and see what your employer offers. So after my pension contribution is deducted, then I'm left with my net income, which comes into my bank account. And then the first thing that I do is to pay myself first. So call me selfish, but I think that I deserve to be paid before everybody else. So I will always allocate a certain amount of money into my savings account. I have a separate Monzo account where I keep my savings, and within that account I divide them into pots, which I'll probably make a separate video about because otherwise it will get quite confusing. But all you need to know is that I have a separate bank account for my savings. So I hear quite a lot of people talking about the 50-30-20 rule, and that's where you spend 50% of your salary on your needs, like bills and things that you absolutely must pay, like rent and mortgage payments, car payments, groceries, insurance, and those must-haves like that. So you spend 50% of your salary on your needs, and then 30% of your salary on your wants, which are things that you don't need and just things that you want, such as going to the cinema, going out with friends, socializing. Yeah, that's the 30%. And then 20% is savings. So I think that's a really, really good way of allocating your money. However, that doesn't work for me. I think probably probably because my salary's not high enough and my outgoings are too high, because I have a mortgage and I'm basically paying for a 2-bedroom flat on one person's wage. So I think that's actually it just doesn't work for me. I've looked at where I can save money. I think I'm quite sensible, don't have loads of subscriptions and things like that. So, you know, my needs are way more than 50% of my salary, which is quite annoying. So my savings are below 20% at the moment, but I hope to be able to maybe follow this 50-30-20 rule when I'm able to, which is when my salary increases, because I think it's really good, but it just doesn't work for me. So I think the lesson that we can learn here is things that you read on the internet or in books aren't always going to work for you. Don't feel bad about it, just recognize that and just try and find something that does work for you. So currently I'm saving about 10% of my salary, and that goes straight into my savings account first. I then look at my budget and I start to allocate pots of money to each of my budget categories so that all of my money is accounted for the month, and so I know exactly where each pound and each penny is going to be spent. This is just like a zero-based budget, where the money that you've got coming in equals the money that you've got going out, and that includes things like savings and investing as well. It's not spending everything until you reach zero in your bank account. It's just a method where every penny and every pound has a home, and so you know exactly where everything's going to be spent, and if that matches up exactly how you plan, then you should be left with zero in your account at the end of the month. Now, to work out how much to allocate to each category, like food, transport, bills, insurance, then a good way of doing that is to look back over your bank statements over the past 2 or 3 months and to go line by line through everything to see, and then categorize it and then see exactly how much you've spent on each category. That's quite an eye-opener as well, because you might see subscriptions that you can cancel that you don't use. Yeah, it's a really good way of streamlining your outgoings, and also at the same time you can work out roughly what you should be allocating to each category. So I'm going to talk you through the spreadsheet that I am using for budgeting. It's just a free one that I found on Google Sheets, but it's actually really good. I'm going to put a cutaway on the screen now so that you can see it. At the top there's a bar chart, and if you can see, the start balance is 0 and the end balance is, well, it will have a sum at the moment of about $500. Also, this is in dollars. I couldn't find one for pounds, but I just use it as if it was pounds because it essentially makes no difference on the spreadsheet. So there's a box up in the top right hand corner which says starting balance, and I think you only put a figure in there if you want to include your savings already. I don't want to do that. I want to use this like a zero-based budget tool. So what I'm going to do instead is just leave that top box blank. And then if you go down to your start balance and your end balance, at the end of the month, those should both be 0 if you've spent exactly what you've earned. What we don't want to end up with is a negative there. And then underneath that, you've got expenses. So you've got your planned expenses. So what I've done there, if you can see these columns here, I've put in what I plan to spend on food. So food is £150, gifts 73, house, that includes my mortgage, my ground rent, my service charge, council tax and things like that. So that's 1,120. And then transportation, about $70, personal, so like toiletries and hair shampoo and stuff like that, 80. So yeah, I think you get the picture. You just put all of your planned expenses into the column on the left, and then if you see the columns on the right underneath income, there's lots of different categories here. I don't use them all, but you can put your paycheck in there, what you plan to be paid or what you know you're going to be paid, and then anything else. If you get a bonus, if you make interest on your investments or savings, then you can put that in there as well. So then you've got your planned and then your actual, which I'll show you how that gets filled in now. So if you go to the bottom of the spreadsheet, you can see the tab for transactions. And I've started filling this in already because I'm running my budget from the 25th of January to the 25th of February. And so that's because that I get paid on the 25th of each month. So for me, it makes sense to do the 25th to the 25th. But you can do it however you want. And that's just how I prefer to do it. And you run your expenses and your income as they accrue. in these boxes. So what I like to do is, a lot of my bills come out on the first of the month, such as my mortgage and council tax and all of the big things come out. So I've just filled that in now anyway, because I might as well. I know they're going to come out, and if they don't come out for any reason, then I can always remove them. But they have to come out, because otherwise that would be a big problem. So I'm going to put them in now. And also I've already done some shopping for the month. Before I even started, I did a food shop, and then I've been out this weekend, so I've spent some money. So I've gone through my bank statement this morning and put in what my outgoings have been for the past 4 days, and I've also put them into categories. And then I put my income in the right hand column, so that that's actual income that's actually landed in my bank account. So then if we go back to the summary page, you can see actual. So we've got the planned, what I thought I was going to spend on food for the month, 150, and then what I've actually spent so far is 48. So then that shows me the difference in the third column. So I've got £102 left to spend on food if I want to stay within my budget. And then that's the same for everything else, like transportation, £70 I've allocated for transport. So that's petrol and train tickets, parking, things like that. And I've actually spent 14 so far, and then so I've got 56 left for the month. So I think that's really good. I think it's a really easy way of doing it. I personally like being able to see things with a chart. So if you can see these bar charts here, my planned expenses were 2,341, and my actual expenses so far have been 1,834. That's because I've put all of my outgoings, like my mortgage, which is quite expensive. So that's why that looks like that. So like I said at the beginning, I paid myself first. I planned to save 10%, and I've put 10% into my savings. So then the difference is 0. That's also reflected in the expenses column here. So even though it says expenses, that also includes savings. So at the end of the month, hopefully my end balance will be 0, because that whatever is left there will be spent on things like food, transport, pets, utilities. And as they come in during the month, I will enter those here, and then gradually this bar chart will start coming down, and then at the end of the month hopefully I will be left with 0. So I'm going to monitor those categories to make sure that I'm spending what I should be spending, and hopefully stick within them. But things come up that are unexpected. So some people have like a miscellaneous category, which is for like emergency things that might come up, so that they don't blow their budget. But I don't really have the luxury of doing that. I suppose that's my savings. But if you did want to have an extra little cushion or a buffer, then you could put a miscellaneous, so that if something comes up that you didn't necessarily predict, then you've got that covered in your budget and you don't end up blowing your budget. So I'll keep an eye on what I've spent and hopefully don't blow any of my categories, and hopefully stick within the budget. So I'll update you guys at the end of the month and let you know how I got on. So I wanted to speak to you now about my future goals, because I thought you might be interested in what I'm doing long term. The first thing that I want to do is to save 6 months of expenses, so that if for whatever reason I couldn't work for 6 months, all my outgoings would be safe and covered and paid for with my savings. But I don't want to keep saving infinitely, because with the effects of inflation, the longer your money is sitting there in the bank account, the less valuable it becomes over time. For example, if I had £50,000 in a savings account and I kept that for 10 years, it wouldn't go as far in 10 years' time as it would now. But I do believe that you do need some money which is easily accessible in a savings account, just in case you need it for emergencies. So my plan is to save 6 months worth of expenses, but no more than that. After that, I want all of my income, which I would have allocated to savings, to go towards making investments and buying assets. And that is because assets typically increase in value, whereas money decreases in value. And that's because with inflation, as we've just talked about, the value of money goes down. However, the same inflation makes the price of things go up. So if you invest your money in things and assets rather than keeping it in a savings account, your money or your wealth will therefore rise with inflation. So what I plan to do is purchase an investment property. So as soon as I've hit my 6-month saving goal, I'm going to be putting every extra penny into a separate account where I'll be saving for an investment property. Another goal that I have is to avoid lifestyle creep, because it's so easy for you to start earning more money, especially when you go from being a trainee to a qualified lawyer. My income is going to go up quite a bit. However, my outgoings could also then increase. I might decide to go to a fancier gym. I might decide to buy a bigger house to live in. I might decide to get an iPhone 15 or whatever version they'll be on by the time I qualify. That's just not a position that I want to be in. So I'm going to be keeping my outgoings as low as possible so that I can save as much money as possible and then buy assets so that my wealth rises. Another goal that I have is to keep educating myself on personal finance, because I've learned so much by teaching myself, and I want to continue to educate myself in this area because we just don't get taught this at school. We don't really get taught this anywhere. So it's so important for me to educate myself. And as I do that, I will hopefully be taking you along on the journey on this YouTube channel. So if you are interested in sticking around to see how I get on, then please do hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, and hit the like button as well to let me know if you like these types of videos. I've also made a video about how I saved £60,000 in 3 years. So I'm going to put that on the screen for you now so you can go over and check that out if you're interested. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope you found it interesting. I hope I made budgeting sound simple. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. But until next time, goodbye.